What's going on, guys? Zach Sharps of 2p.com here with my Bless Online first look. Bless Online is developed and published by Neowiz. It's a Korean MMORPG that just ended its last closed beta test, and it's expected to be free to play. The game itself is highly anticipated. You can find it on many anticipated MMO lists out there, and I got to test it out, so I'm going to give you guys my thoughts regarding my experience with the first 10-ish hours that I played. The game itself is expected to be released in other countries, although from my knowledge, North America and EU are not yet confirmed, but through the grapevine, developers have said that the game's success does rely on international success. So that's good news. That means that they are definitely looking into the possibility of bringing it over to North America and EU and other regions as well. I've heard Russia thrown up into the air at some point in time, so it's really one of those things where they are really looking into the logistics and want to bring their game to multiple cultures and multiple regions. The two factions in the game are North and South. These two factions are warring factions, and the classes in the game are Guardian, Berserker, Paladin, Ranger, Assassin, Mage, Warlock, and Mystic. There's a total of 10 races in Bless Online, from human types all the way to beast types. Character creation contains a ton of customization, from presets to dragon pull systems. It really just has a lot in it. The character creation is really what I hope that other MMO developers look at as a standard moving forward, because you can literally create any type of character you want within Bless Online. There's really no limitations on you because you have that molding possibility with the dragon pull system, and also there's a lot of presets and a lot of sliders on top of the dragon pull that you can mess with as well to make your ideal character. So Bless Online is fantastic in this department. I really don't know how they can change in any sort of way to make it better. They do have foundations to add more presets in the future. There's a lot of empty spaces there, so maybe that's going to be something that they're going to add during the next beta test, whether it's open beta or just release in general. Who knows, but it's something that certainly can be done and improved upon, but right now it's perfect. So, I mean, they could just leave it how it is. I don't care. At the beginning, when you start the game, you start with an epic introduction with a good bit of abilities inside of a demonic area. This area looks absolutely amazing, and it gives you a great introduction to the game because it allows you to play with skills that are basically mid-range level skills and abilities to give you a good idea on what to expect from your class. So if you're one of the types of people that like to play multiple classes for multiple types of playstyles, you can find out sort of what playstyles you're going to like the most in Bless Online just from the beginning introduction of the game, which is really cool because that way you don't have to dedicate so much time just to hate a class down the road. You can just try it out in the tutorial, get a good grasp on sort of how it plays, and give yourself a good idea on whether or not you actually want to progress that class all the way up to endgame, which is really cool. I like that a lot. I played a Ranger till around level 10-ish, and I played an Assassin till level 8-ish. So as far as the factions go, how do they start out? Do they both start in separate areas, or is this one of those games that are very cheapo and only have one starting area? Well, there is two starting areas. There's the north, which starts in a more foresty looking area. There's a lot of forest around, a lot of trees, grass, very green looking, where the south is completely opposite. It's this completely barren desert, which for myself is boring, but some people really like deserts and hate forests, and myself, I love forests and I hate deserts, so it really is just a personal preference thing, both of which do look really detailed, and performance-wise, the game runs fairly well. I mean, within the first 10-ish hours, I didn't really experience any technical difficulties with the game besides the server shutdown. Obviously, the game's in beta, we expect this, but frame rate wise, on a 980 GTX with 4GB of DDR5 memory, an i7 4770K processor, 12GB of RAM, it wasn't really bad in terms of performance. It's not really what I expected. I expected to have a little bit of issue where I had to turn down some things, but I was completely maxed out, going for it, having a good old time, and I'm sure that on lower end systems you could probably tweak some things in order to make it run really well on your machine, because there's a lot of good sliders in the settings to make the game optimized for you as a player, which is really great to see with games moving forward, is better optimization, better ways of tweaking the game's graphics settings in order to make it suit your build the best as possible. So that's really cool. I really like how they did that. So with sort of the introduction out of the way, I went over like what the game is, what factions are available, what classes are available, the character customization, how much of it I played, and where each faction starts. Let's get into the more meaty part of the games, the combat. Let's go into a little bit more depth with the presentation, the abilities, what you could expect from the game as a whole. And the first thing that we want to start with, obviously, is the combat. The combat is tab target style by default, but players can enable soft targeting if they prefer that for combat. This is done in the beginning of the game with the character customization. There's actually an option for it. I wasn't sure which one it was because I don't read Korean, but there is an option there. I saw two different types of WASD type movements, and then I also saw the options for different types of combat. And so when you initially start playing the game, you'll have that choice. Of course, once it's translated, you'll just see that easily and be able to click it on before you start playing the game. It's also an option within the settings within the game once you actually get into the game. That's how I found it. I was like, all right, let's go through my settings. I sort of was checking things off and on, seeing what it did, and ended up checking on the soft targeting combat, and I was like, wow, a crosshair, fantastic. That's exactly what I was looking for, because that's what I saw other people utilizing in the videos I watched. So I was like, oh cool, soft targeting, fantastic. I left that on. I had a great time with it, and with soft targeting, the game itself felt pretty good, although I felt like it was a little inconsistent at times. This was likely due to lag though, because I'm pinging from the west coast of America all the way to South Korea, and even though the game ran really well and I didn't really have any complaints with the performance, I think that the inconsistencies with the combat were due to that. I really don't think it was a polished thing. It could be. There are games out there, a lot of MMOs out there that don't have very refined combat with, you know, having breaks in animations or locking down animations, but it's one of those things where I just want to blame it on lag because everything else around ran perfectly, and that's really the only thing that I can think of in terms of my inputs delay is just the lag and pinging from the west coast of America to South Korea. The combat though felt really weighted. The sound effects were really good and the animations were fluid. It was top notch. It was really great to see from a soft targeting game, because normally soft targeting MMOs end up bringing in the soft targeting feature once their tab targeting sort of fails or flakes out, because they're like, oh well, it's not action packed enough, or tab targeting can't hold up on its own, let's add a more actiony soft targeting feature. That way it feels more like an action MMO, but it still is pretty much just a tab targeting MMO with the ability for you just to attack whatever target you're viewing. It's one of those things where I understand why they did it, but it still kind of feels like it was shoehorned in there, but it does complement the game, so I really can't blame them for doing it, because soft targeting is something that I believe is a standard now. It either needs to be soft targeting or full-on action combat. You can have the option to go back to tab target. I know some people don't like not utilizing tab target. They love tab target combat, but I don't know. I think it holds back the industry, and I really like what Bless Online did, even though it does feel a little bit shoehorned into the game. That being said, there is a lot of abilities in the game, and abilities are gained through skill books, and as you gain more skill books, you gain more available skills to put in their respective slots, and I'm assuming as you go forth and conquer within the game and its higher levels, you're going to have a lot more abilities available, and you're going to be able to swap them in and out and build your character how you wish. I didn't see any skill trees or anything like that within Bless Online. I might have been a little bit too newbie at the time, considering, like I said, the max level I had was level 10, but the skill books alone and the amount of skills I was getting felt frequent enough, and I hope that that doesn't die off as the game progresses in the upper levels, because I felt like that was a perfect mix of learning your skills and then getting another skill, learning that skill, getting another skill. It felt really good, very solid overall. The range combat, in terms of a melee versus ranged comparison, it didn't feel broken in any way like in some MMOs. You know those MMOs where you play as a ranger and you can kite things for days? Not so much in Bless Online. It felt like it was very balanced, at the very least at early levels, and Assassin felt balanced as well. I felt like my Assassin though had a little bit more firepower, but just less sustainability because I wasn't at range, I was all up in their face. Overall, I like the Assassin a lot better, which is really strange, because as you guys will come to know with me doing first looks on this channel, I'm more of a ranged combat type of person. I'll play a ranger over a melee character any day, but I fell in love with the Assassin within Bless Online, which is either a compliment to the way they developed it, or the range combat just felt a little off to me. I wasn't really sure. I was trying to think about this over the weekend. I'm like, what made me not like the ranger? I think it was the input lag. I honestly do, because everything in the game just felt so solid, but for some reason I just could not get into range combat. I just don't know. I like the Assassin though. The Assassin was awesome, and the animations for both classes were really, really good. Graphically speaking, the game is gorgeous, but the sound is also something that makes it even better, and that's really rare within MMOs nowadays. Usually it's just like a weak soundtrack with weak sound effects, and then graphically the game looks good, but it's not really the best looking thing you've ever seen. In this game, the graphics are really good. They're not the best I've ever seen. The sound is really good. It's not the best I've ever heard, but everything complements each other really well. I mean, the sound and graphics go well together. The game itself, because of the sound, because of the setting, feels very, very epic. You just sort of go through zones, kill awesome giant bosses, and you hear this awesome music reminiscent to Two Steps from Hell, a composer in the background as you're doing it. It's awesome. I love it. It's not the best looking game though. I want to reiterate this because I'm concerned about how the graphics will last over time. Just like with Blade and Soul, considering it's been delayed for about 3 years, if you've been waiting for it over here in North America, parts of Blade and Soul are gorgeous. I know this by playing Blade and Soul on the Chinese servers and also the Russian servers, but other parts need texture work because the textures just are really blurry and really bland, and I feel like Bless Online is going to go down this path as well, and it may be just a cynicism with inside of me, but I feel as though they're going to wait way too long to release Bless Online over here in the West, and it's going to become a little outdated and not as good as it could have been. It's not going to have the impact that it could have had if it would have released right off the bat. The story, if you care about story with MMOs, is voice acted, and I'm not really sure if this will be an English translation when ported. However, the voice acting in Korean is pretty good. Although I can't understand exactly what they're saying, they say it with emotion, they say it with meaning and with purpose and with emphasis, and it really sounds like good Korean voice acting. I don't really know what I could say besides that. The story is also complemented with cinematics, which is insane. You don't see this often enough within MMOs, where the story itself not only has fully voice-acted dialogue sequences, but then has cinematics that are pretty decent quality on top of that, which lead to epic sequences like an invasion, wolf attacks, giant rock attacks, etc. It's just really good. It really complements the entire feel of the game. As far as how large the game is in terms of content, what I can say is the map within Bless Online, it's quite large, and terrain varies well enough. From the looks of it, it doesn't seem as though Bless will be a grindy game at higher levels. However, the amount of areas, just like in all games, could be misleading in regards to content availability. We saw this within Terra Online, where there was a lot of areas within the game for you to explore, but it really fizzled out to be somewhat of a grindy experience by doing this XYZ repetitious quests and not really having meaningful progression throughout the entirety of that game, where the game itself felt the best at endgame. I feel as though Bless Online is going to sort of follow this same trend of the progression's not really something that you look forward to doing, but once you get into the meat of the game, the PvP, the endgame, you're really going to thoroughly enjoy this title. but the progression itself is certainly not the quality, the lack of quality that Terra Online presented. You still are going to have an enjoyable experience because the trains are gorgeous, the voice acting is well done, the sound effects are well done, the soundtrack is epic, and there is good cinematography thrown in along the way as well. And there's also phasing too. If you're not really a fan of phasing, you might not like Bless Online because there is a lot of phasing within Bless Online. It could cause some frame rate dips here and there. I don't like how rough they made it, but I understand why they did it that way to make it so you can have a good, complete story experience within the game. Speaking of PvP though, I mentioned it just a moment ago, what exactly is there within Bless Online in terms of endgame? Well, what I've seen thus far is there is a lot of politics between the North and South factions alongside an RVR system, and also I believe I saw at one point battlegrounds within the game as well. So there's a good variety of PvP, there's leaderboards that you can check out on the interface itself, and overall the game itself looks like down the road when you can actually get into that PvP, which I wasn't able to, it looks like it will flesh out quite well, and there will be a lot of interesting things that can occur due to the types of classes that are available, as well as the types of skills that are available and the variety that is there. I mean, if you have a lot of skills, you can have a lot of builds. If you have a lot of builds, there's a lot of random types of characters that come out as a result, because if one character has a random 5 amounts of skills and the other character has 5 different skills, those are going to be 2 different types of characters in the way that they play. And so even though you have a cookie cutter class system, you still have a lot of room to grow, and I'm sure that there's even more that I didn't even uncover down the line. So in the end, what do I think of Bless Online? Is it worth looking into? Is it worth anticipating? I think yes. I definitely give it 2 thumbs up in terms of hooking me. I really wanted to play more, but I just didn't have time. Life got in the way during the entire test. But what I did see, I really liked. What I did see, I am now thoroughly anticipating if it does come over here to the West. I don't know how much more I'll play of it in Korean. Not that I'm knocking the Korean language, I just don't know it. I want to learn it. It's something that I do want to learn down the line so I could play more of these games and engulf myself in them a lot more, immerse myself in them a lot more is what I should say there. But it's one of those things where I enjoyed my experience. My 10-ish hours I spent in the game were really fun. I didn't have too much of an issue playing the game. It ran really well. The game itself didn't lag that much. The game flowed really well. It prompted me with normal MMO tropes to allow me to pick up the game with ease, even though I didn't know the language that it was telling me everything in. And there's a lot of fan sites on the web, such as Bless Source, that you can go on and check out a lot of information about the game, check out guides, and a forum full of passionate people that are anticipating the game. So I think that Bless Online is certainly a game you guys should be looking forward to, and I can't wait to get my hands on it when it comes over, if it comes over here to the West. Let's cross our fingers. But regardless, guys, what do you guys think about Bless Online? Did the gameplay that I showed you guys in this video impress you? Is it something that you are now looking forward to? Is it something that's fell off your radar due to it not really exciting you that much? Or you just don't think it's ever going to come over here? Leave your guys' thoughts down below. But as always, guys, my name is Zach Sharp, signing out until the next video. Make sure to check out 2p.com for all your MMO and mobile news. But as always, guys, I'll catch you guys next time.